Well, here we are on this final Sunday of the Christian year. It's the end of our year. Now, the Christian year ends a little bit sooner than our regular calendar year, but I guess it's close enough for us to sort of participate. About a month's difference, right? So we bring things to a conclusion on the day that we call Christ the King Sunday. We end in if nothing else, we end in that perspective. Christ is King. And it's a way of coming to a proper conclusion before we get ready to start all over again. Well, not only is it that day, but today is also the Sunday before Thanksgiving and all of those kind of things. Next Sunday when we arrive, like I said, we'll have our Advent wreath right here. Oh, by the way, I'm going to volunteer different ones, and I'll send you the little reading that goes on it on your phone. I'll try to let you know that beforehand. I may have to pick out a victim next Sunday morning, but we'll see. Because you never know who's going to be here. But we'll see. Anyway, here we are with this sort of, I don't know, almost a triple kind of way of thinking about it, because we got Christ the King Sunday. We got Thanksgiving coming up, and some of you already got Christmas decorations in your house now, don't you? Yeah, well you do. So, pick a theme. I want to go to concluding words. I mean, come on, y'all. We have spent a lot of the summer in whose gospel? Matthew's gospel. When we were looking at Matthew's gospel, we spent a lot of times looking at what? Parables. So, naturally, come on, y'all. Where would be the best place to end this fiasco? Matthew chapter 25 with I don't know, they call it a parable because it's got it's got sheep and goats in it. By the way, sheep and goats are a duad. When I say the word duad, y'all know what I mean, right? Duad is hot and cold, up and down, left and right. In Jesus, you remember last Sunday I talked about reactors and doers. That was my duad. Jesus' duad for this final Sunday of the year, his, left and right, and literally, is sheep and goats. So, begin reading with me, Matthew chapter 25, verse 31. In my Bible, this is subtitled, The Judgment of the Nations. But it's all right, you can take it a little bit more personally than that. Here we go. When the Son of Man comes in His glory, and all the angels with Him, I want you to start painting this picture. Then He will sit on the throne of His glory. All the nations will be gathered before Him, and He will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And He will put the sheep at His right hand and the goats at His left. Then the King, Christ the King, will say to those at His right hand, Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the King will answer them, Truly, I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. Then He will say to those at His left hand, You that are accursed. Depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devils and his angels. For the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. Naked and you did not give me clothing. Sick and in person and you did not visit me. Then they also will answer, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry, or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not take care of you? Then he will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. The Word of God for the people of God. So, this is one of the most vivid parables Jesus ever spoke. I mean, you don't have to guess about this. You draw up all kind of pictures and visions, and I mean, you got this heavenly scene. You got thrones. I know most of you probably know what sheep and goats look like. And the thing about this is that this lesson is not like one of those parables where you're scratching your head trying to figure out who's the bad guy and what are we really supposed to be thinking. No, 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 no. By the time we get to the 25th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, no, this stuff's starting to get crystal clear. That God will judge us in accordance with our reaction to other folks. That's it. God will judge us in accordance with our reaction to human need. So here we have this vision. We have Jesus, who is not only King, but Son of God in His glory. The angelic hosts in all their powers are surrounding His friends, His companions. And then all the nations are gathered before His judgment throne. Now, this judgment does not depend on the knowledge we have amassed. Oh, so-and-so knows so much more about the Bible. They're so much more religious than me. They teach Sunday school. Oh, gosh, No, that's not what it's about. Or the fame we have acquired. Well, that's an important person, man. You walk uptown Louisville and just walk down the street, just pick up hearts all the way down. Everybody knows his name. He's a good guy. No, that's not what it's about. And we know that it's not about the fortune that they have gained, but on the help that we have given. Help. Now, my granddaddy didn't say help. Y'all know what he said? He says, you want me to hope? Y'all heard that before? A lot of old folks, they don't say help, do they? They say hope. I like that. There's a lot of hope in help. There's a lot of help in hope, isn't there? Yep. And there are certain things, specifics, which this parable teaches about that help, that hope, which we must give. Y'all ready for this complicated stuff? No. Number one, it must be help in simple, everyday things. The things that Jesus picks out are, giving a hungry man a meal, giving a thirsty child a drink, welcoming a stranger, cheering the sick. What a lot of our seminaries call being there. Just being there. visiting the prisoner, are things which, I'm sorry, but I don't know, that's things that most anybody can do. It's not a question of giving away thousands of dollars. No. It's not a case of writing our names on the annals of history. It is a case of giving simple help to the people we meet every day. And some of them even might know our first name. Some of them. I mean, y'all, think about it. There was never a parable which so opened the way to glory to the simplest people. Because another way of saying this is that it paved the road to heaven for everybody. Because facts are, anyone can help his fellow human being in the name, grace, and love of Jesus Christ, regardless of his knowledge, fame, or fortune. Okay. So what Jesus has laid down in this teaching is the standards by which we will be judged. Y'all would not believe how many people have asked me the same question over and over and over and over and over throughout my ministry as they talk to me as a pastor. You know what they say? What I got to do? What have I got to do? Well, here comes God's standard of judgment. See, not only does he tell us how to go about fulfilling our Christian lives, but he also gives us the consequences. Verse 34, then the king will say to those at his right hand, come you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So then, we've already said, we already understand that it's help in simple everyday things, you know, like a glass of water. I mean, come on, y'all. Giving somebody a glass of water is just not that hard, is it? Is it? Is it? But what else? What else? I mean, how else do we help? Or on this day before Thanksgiving, how else can we show our thanksgiving to God other than meeting this Thursday or one day and stuffing our faces with turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce? How else can we show our thanksgiving to God other than overeating? How else can we honor Christ as King? Well, it's simple stuff. It must be help, which is uncalculating. We talked about this before. Y'all remember that generosity is not a sin sermon? I would have you notice in the parable, it is the parable, it's a story. But it's very, it's in there for a reason. Those who helped in Jesus' parable, those who helped did not think they were helping. They didn't think that they were helping Jesus. They didn't think that they were piling up eternal merits. You know, what do I got to do to get saved? What do I got to do to get, that's how a lot of us think. What am I doing over here on the right side of good things over here? Here's a bunch of people who have done the right thing. They have eternal merit, but they're not even aware of it. What a perspective. they help. Why? Because they couldn't stop themselves? I know folks like that. Some of you are like that. It was natural. Why do you help folks? It's instinctive, right? Way I was raised, what I was taught, what was poured inside of me. It is the quite uncalculating reaction of a loving heart. Whereas, on the other hand, the attitude of those who failed to help was sort of like this. It sort of went like, well, you know, if we'd have known it was you, Jesus, if we'd have known it was you, we would have gladly helped, but, you know, we just thought it was some old so-and-so who wasn't worth helping. It's still true that there are those who will help if they are given praise. There are those who will help if they're given recognition, if they're thanked publicly. But I'm sorry, to help like this is really not to help. It's to pander to self-esteem. Call it what it is. Such help is not generosity, it is disguised selfishness. The help which wins the approval of God is that which is given for nothing but the sake of help. Okay, Jesus says in verse 40, and the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. So that Jesus confronts us, we don't have to worry about it. You know, you'd be surprised how many church people are worried about helping the wrong people. You think they really deserve that? You know, we gave so-and-so a $500 check, but you think we ought to give them a $500? I don't know. Now, I understand doing the right thing. I'm not crazy. But think about it. Giving the help for the right reason. Why do we do what we do? I mean, what is our motivation? Well, think about it like this. If we really wish to delight a parent's heart, if we really wish to move a parent to gratitude, think about it. What is the best way to do it? To help their child. If you don't believe that, try it. Help somebody's child and you'll make a friend for life. God is the great Father. And the way to delight the heart of God is to help His children. Now, like I said way back at the beginning, the one thing that I really like about this parable is that it is so easy to understand. I mean, come on, no normal literate person could walk away from this parable and say, you know what, I don't get it. I don't understand. What's that goat and sheep? I don't know. You know, we earlier emphasized what would happen to fall consequence to the Christian life. What about the other side of the fence? Well, it's there too, plain and simple. Verse 41, then he will say to those at his left hand, you that are accursed. What a way to start a sentence. You that are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. I get quite often told, Miss Mary Jane, that I don't do enough hellfire and brimstone preaching. Well, there you go. So the sheep are gathered to the right hand of approval and honor, and the goats are cursed to the left side of condemnation. Now don't make anything out of this more than it is. Syrian sheep are white. You want to guess what color Syrian goats are? Most of them? Black. Now like I said, don't make any kind of racial or anything. That's not what this is about. It's sort of a duet. Syrian sheep are white. Syrian goats are black. They could be told apart pretty much even in almost dark. You know what I mean? There was no doubt as to which was which. So, this is saying to us that on the judgment day, there will be no shadow of a doubt. And I've got written over here by the side, it's a quote from my granddaddy. Some of you old goats in sheep's clothing will be found out. On Judgment Day, there'll be no doubt. But here's the deal, y'all. While we're here, there are no distinguishing marks from Christians or non-Christians. I've seen some of the most haughty, horrible, messed up folks doing things on a movie, whatever they're doing, and they got a cross hanging around their neck. Don't mean a thing. Y'all notice that? It's jewelry. It's decoration. Because I know what's coming out of their mouth and their actions does not reflect the cross hanging around their neck. Y'all ever been there? See, there are no distinguishing marks on Christians or non-Christians. In fact, we never, hardly ever see a pure breed. Either a goat or sheep. Because some of us goats have a little sheep in us, and some of us sheep have a lot of goatiness. Y'all know what I mean. In fact, there's a little poem that makes this point a little clearer. It goes like this. There is so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it hardly becomes any of us to talk about the rest of us. But see, we are not asked to judge. That's not our job. It is not a human right. Christ is king. Christ is judge. And he sees the main goal of our soul. Don't worry, you will not be misunderstood. I hope that's good news. No one can face two directions. Jesus knows our dominant motives. He knows your MO. He knows who you are. I want to tell y'all one of the most ancient stories that I get to tell on Sunday mornings. Martin of Tours was a Roman soldier. Martin. And he was one of those really early misplaced Christians, you know. He was a Christian when being Christian wasn't cool, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. One cold winter day, he was entering a city and a beggar stopped him and asked for alms. That's a more sophisticated way to say help. Martin had no money. Sound familiar? But the beggar was blue and shivering with cold, and Martin decided to give what he had. He took off his soldier's tunic coat. It's like a big old blanket made out of wool, stakes, heavy, worn and frayed as it was. He cut it in two, and he gave half of it to the beggar man. That night, Martin had a dream. In it, he saw the heavenly places, all the angels, Jesus in the midst, crown on his head, sitting on a throne. And there was King Jesus wearing half of a Roman soldier's cloak. And one of the angels said to him, "Master, why are you wearing that old battered, stinking cloak? Who gave it to you?" And Jesus answered softly, "My servant Martin gave it to me." You see, we have a very unusual king. We have a very special king. The next time you get the chance to help, think about what Jesus said. King James, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment. But the righteous into life eternal. I told you that's what we did. When we learn the generosity which without calculations helps others in the simplest things, we too will know the joy of helping Jesus Christ himself. And that is true Christianity. Jesus is Lord. Christ the King. And the other thing I would add, may you and yours have a very safe Thanksgiving. Amen.